Really excited for this week's On the Tee, 80th playing of the U.S. Women's Open at Erin Hills. You heard us talk about it a bunch. And joining us right away to kick off the show, CEO of the USGA, Mike Wan. Mike, thank you so much for the time, man.
Thank you, Gabe and Steven. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, so what is it about this golf course? Because the USGA just keeps coming back. We were here last year when you announced 5 more championships, a lot of the amateur ones that are going to be coming back to Erin Hills. What is it about Erin Hills that the USGA just keeps coming back for?
You know, in fairness, I started 4 years ago. I asked the same question. I looked at the lineup and said, man, we're going there a lot. In fact, Wisconsin a lot. You know, I think 12 times, something there in the next 15 years. And so somebody said, have you been to Erin Hills? And I said, I've not. I grew up in Chicago, so I feel like I know Wisconsin golf. But about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we flew in. I walked in here about 8 o'clock at night, maybe 7:30 on a summer night. Sun setting. Everybody's sitting on the back patio having a drink. There's people putting. And I walked, of course, to my cabin, got up in the morning, teed off. And I was about the 12th hole, and I looked at my playing partner. I said, I get it. I get it. I mean, this is like field of dreams for golf. Like, if you build it, you know, they will come. I mean, in the middle of an area that probably nobody saw a golf course, someone did. And they're just, you know, there's all the little things here are done right. And it's an incredible experience as a golfer and an incredible test of golf. And it's hard to get both. Sometimes you can give somebody a really good experience, but maybe not the kind that will separate the best from the best. Here you get both, and you get Wisconsin hospitality, which is second to none.
I'm glad we started there because I kind of have a bone to pick with you, Mike. It's
boy.
Like, yeah, it's stop sending the world to Wisconsin. This is our hidden gem, okay? Like, we know how good the golf is here. We're not ready to share that with anybody else. They're taking all of our tee times.
Just remember, huge economic impact when we come. So we're helping you on your taxes. Your property taxes are better. I don't know if that's true, but we definitely are putting beds in heads for you.
I'll submit them to you then.
Yeah,
okay. No, we love having you guys here, and we're happy that this course gets another spotlight because we saw how special it was with the Mid-Am, and before that, the Men's Open in 2017 where Brooks Koepka won. And when you look at this property and you think about the test that this is going to be for the best women in the world, what stands out to you about the golf course?
Well, the answer, the question here is always going to be, what's the wind like today? You know, so this place will play completely different with or without wind. And what's really unique about the time of year we're playing, if you ask a member here, what's the wind like? They'll say, well, early in the season, you know, it blows out of the west, and then later in the year. And I said, well, how about the 1st of June? Oh, 1st of June, you're going to get all 4 in the same day. So I think we're going to see some real perplexed players standing saying, wait a minute, on the last hole, I thought the wind was behind us. I'm facing the same direction. Now it feels like it's in my face. So, wind's going to be the dictator here. I also think you've got some incredible scoring opportunities and risk reward, especially late in this golf course. So, I think it's it's one of those golf courses that if you have a 2-shot lead with 5 to play, you'll still not be able to get enough saliva in your mouth because you're still going to feel the anything could happen, and that's one of the things we like about this place.
CEO of the USGA, Mike Wan, joining us here on the tee with the 80th playing of the U.S. Women's Open, coming right here to Erin Hills later this month. If you want to make sure you get out here and check that out. So when you look at testing the best players in the world on the women's side, what kind of test are you looking for? Because I feel for years, the USGA, it's going to be tight fairways and long rough, and certainly there's going to be fescue and long rough and whatnot out here. But what do you want when people think USGA championship?
I would say 3 basic things. We want hard but fair. We want you to feel tested. We always say we want every club in your bag dirty at the end of the day, including the one between your ears. We really want you to have to think your way around a golf course, make choices. You should be tired physically and mentally after you play a USGA championship every day you play it. So we want tough but fair. We want to test every piece of equipment in your bag, but we also want to play golf courses the way the original designer envisioned them. We've said for a while now, probably 5 or 6 years, that we're not showing up golf courses with trucks of fescue and unloading skids of new kinds of grasses. We're going to play Erin Hills the way Erin Hills was designed and envisioned. We did when we were here for the U.S. Open. We played it for the Mid-Am, and we'll do it for the women. This course is good enough without the USGA trying to doctor it, and we won't. So I think that'll be exciting. As you probably know, I spent 11 seasons as the LPGA commissioner before coming here. So I'd be lying to you if I said this one isn't a little special to me. For 11 seasons, I heard players talk about the one. And in their mind, the one was this one. If you ask 100 guys, what major do you want to win if you could only win one, you'll get a bunch of different answers. If you ask 100 LPGA players, my guess is you get 100 of the same answers. They want to win the U.S. Women's Open. And the reason they want to win the U.S. Women's Open is because you're going to be playing at a place that really is going to test your game in the toughest conditions against a tough field. You're going to get incredible television exposure by doing it. And all that's going to happen this weekend. And we kind of blow by the 80th playing of the U.S. Women's Open. I think sometimes we just rolls off the tongue. You stick it on a hat. But I can tell you, at the LPGA, they're celebrating their 75th anniversary. At the Ladies European Tour, I think they're 47 or 48 years old. 43 years ago, the NCAA started having women's final championships. So the USGA and the U.S. Women's Open is older than all of that, older than the tours that we consider the best today. So it is, matter of fact, the longest-running women's professional golf competition in the world. So it matters. In
2017, when Brooks Koepka won the men's U.S. Open here on this property, it kind of catapulted his career. He won his first major. He now has 5 of them. I'm not asking you to pick a winner, but is there a player or a certain collection of players you look to that see maybe this could be the start of something special in their career?
It's interesting. For 12 seasons on the LPGA, I could never really honestly answer that question because the fastest way to stop being commissioner is to have favorites. But it's nice now to have the freedom of being able to say. I'm going to play it again today, and I haven't played it for 2 years. So I'm going to have sort of that thought in mind playing it. It's last time I played it, I think it was in September. So I'm excited to play it now at this time because I'm not sure how the greens are going to be different, what the surrounds are going to be like. And also, you guys know this because you're from here, but the next 3 weeks is going to be an incredible growing season for this place. So I even said to my agronomy guy, what's it like? And he goes, well, you're going to finish playing and you're going to point out a few areas and I'm going to roll my eyes. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, this place is going to be perfect in 3 weeks. So just, let it wake up.
There might be snow in the next 2.
Exactly right.
Just to prep
but
you.
I think if the wind blows, we're going to see a Texan, kind of find their way through. Somebody who can figure out how to get the ball on the ground and keep it on the ground. That's about where it finishes, not where it starts. And if the wind doesn't blow, I think it's probably a long hitter's course, where you can just kind of let it go. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we're going to have U.S. Open rough out here, so everybody will have to think their way through that.
Mike, one of the biggest undertakings you've had since you took over at the USGA is the rollback. And there's been a little bit of pushback from different areas now. One, are you worried about any of that pushback that you're hearing? And two, what has been the reaction of the ladies' side when they've heard about the rollback?
Yeah, what I would say most importantly is when I took this job, I remember the board saying to me, we need you to be the one leader in the game who's always thinking about 30 and 50 years from now. We know as commissioner you had a good answer for how you felt about the LPGA 50 years from now, but you spent 98% of your time dealing with the current members. I said, 100%, that's true. I did have a good answer, but I did spend my life thinking about – and at the USGA, you just spend a lot more time thinking about how's the game going to be okay long term. And then the second thing they said to me, and you'll find out pretty quickly you're the only guy who could stay committed to that because everybody else has got, some real members and, to respond to. And so I didn't, none of the pushback to your point has been unanticipated. And I think that the good news is the anxiety over the word rollback is so much larger than the actual change. Mm-hmm. I think the actual change for 99% of the population, they won't even know it changed had nobody told them. But yeah, for people that can generate a lot of ball speed, they're going to see, some slight reduction, and hopefully we're going to save those back tees from having to be built as further back tees in the future. I think the really good news for me is in the last 6 months or so, the collaboration and constructiveness that's happened between the stakeholders coming together, talking about how do we get from here to there, has really been encouraging. I think uplifting for me personally. On the women's side, I think they know they're not at the back of many tee ranges. They won't be here. We'll play them here at 6,800 yards, but not 7,300 yards. So they look back and go, hey, we're not the one pushing at the end. And at the same time, there's plenty of tees forward too. And as I've said this to every tour, if you don't like it, because we don't really care what tour scoring is. And I said this to Molly Marcoux, and I'll say this to their next commissioner. If your players are 7 yards shorter and you want to pick up all your tees of all your tournaments and play them 14 yards shorter and pick up 7 yards, do whatever you want to do. You've got the room to do that. No matter what tour I was talking to, which is if you think, hey, I don't like the fact that my average tour player is 9 yards shorter, pick up your tees and play every hole 10 yards shorter. That's fine with us. That just gives us room for the next generation and the generation beyond that. So I think the LPGA realizes that this isn't going to affect their scoring. It isn't going to affect their course choices. It isn't really going to affect their course setup. They can, they can adjust to 7, 8, 9 yards pretty easy.
Do you notice that it's different for the men's game versus the women's game? Just the conversation amongst players of it impacting them more or less?
Yeah, I would say, generally speaking, the women's game doesn't really pay attention to it right now. It's like, hey, tell me when it comes, and if I've got to make a ball change, I'll figure it out. But I think for those that have, and I know those players pretty well, for those that have already hit some prototypes, kind of come back and go, listen, I've got to dial in a new ball in a couple years, but the impact in terms of the impact of the game is pretty moderate.
When you're taking a look at some of the future courses, and I know on the men's side it's all planned out, but I think you were talking about the yardages here, and they're not going to play it all the way back. But how much does that factor in, having a lot of different options for tee boxes when you want to host a major championship at any venue?
Yeah, and I would say at any championship. I don't care if you're talking about the Junior Am. At the Junior Am, we're looking for, I mean, I hate to say it, but we're looking for bunkers that have about 285 to 290 carry. I mean, a Junior Am, that's kind of
crazy.
If you want fairway bunkers to get in their head, they don't get in their head at 245. They just fly right over the top.
Just mine.
Yeah, just I stay short of them. They fly over. But so I mean, for any championship, you want options, and you want options not just in terms of testing players, but you want options to deal with Mother Nature when she comes to the table on Wednesday night or Friday night, and all of a sudden you realize, or it's a lot wetter than when you originally planned this, or now the wind's blowing from a different direction. And we're actually getting to some championships like our Adaptive Open. I mean, I think we have 4 or 5 different tee boxes on every hole in championship go time. So yeah, it's just good to have choices. And I would say, while I can complain about our 15 national championships and having options, the bigger challenge is for all these allied golf associations in all these states. They're trying to have junior AMs, run qualifiers. I mean, there's a lot being asked of golf courses, especially the ones that can host bigger elite male competition. And if you have that kind of space and that kind of distance, everybody's calling you.
Mike, I know we're here for the U.S. Women's Open. I know you're also a fan of the game. On the men's side, just we heard you talk to No Laying Up about detailing the emotional, interaction you had with Rory after his heartbreak at Pinehurst. To see him get back on top at Augusta, what was your reaction to him completing the career Grand Slam?
Yeah, it's funny. So, I'm there on Sunday afternoon. We kind of are a very, very small part of the 18th green ceremony. So there I'm standing in my typical USGA blue blazer and red tie. And my wife goes, well, let's walk down to 17. And if you guys know Augusta, you don't just walk down to 17. You don't do it in a blazer and tie. So I said, why don't we just stick our head inside one of these suites and watch it on TV? And, she gives me the look like, that's great. Here we are at a golf tournament. We'll go watch it on TV. But I walked into a dining suite for Augusta, and there was probably 200 employees getting ready for a big dinner that night. And the Rory reactions in there were unbelievable. I felt like if I had my phone, I would have filmed it. But it was just so cool to see him and just how everybody was pulling for him. It's funny, kind of like when I told you about the U.S. Open, when Bryson won, which was an amazing day for him and for us. I just felt the need to go talk to Rory before I talked to Bryson. And when Rory won, and this is weird, I sent a long text to Justin Rose, because I knew what that moment was life-changing, certainly for Rory, and he was never going to be able to turn every text in his phone. But I wanted Justin to know how incredible we felt as people who loved the game and the show he gave us. And the fact that it was Justin and Rory made it so easy to root for golf. These are just good guys out there battling. And so I don't know what I have in this sort of underdog mentality of mine, but and I feel like, just like I said to Rory, like good's coming for Rose too. So it was just a cool day overall for the game.
You had mentioned not having your phone. Would you ever think about implementing that at a professional golf tournament?
No, the USGA has been there before, but to be honest with you, it's I get it. That's an Augusta thing, and if you're always parking in the same place and you know exactly where in our case, we're changing every year, so every fan who walks into U.S. Open generally is experiencing that for the first time, and even quite frankly in our case, because such a big chunk of them come from outside the state, is experiencing Western Pennsylvania for the first time or Pinehurst for the first time. And it becomes more just, hey, we want you to be able to follow the competition. We want, if you're sitting on 2, but the competition's on 14, we want you to be able to find that out. And so, it's not something we'll probably go to at the USGA, but it is one of the unique oddities of the Masters that makes it kind of cool.
As somebody who was involved in the women's game as long as you were as commissioner of the LPGA, how exciting is it for you to see this growth of the women's game?
Yeah, it's funny. I took the job in 2009. And it's hard to explain this to people now, but in 2009, the world was in a pretty, not the world, but certainly the U.S. was in a pretty significant recession. So I remember I got on the job and I started calling people, young, fresh-faced commissioner, and I'd be able to say to me, hey, Mike, you sound like a good guy, and, we like the LPGA, but like our marketing budget's frozen. I said, frozen? That's interesting. Hang up, call the next person. Hey, we're just on a freeze right now, Mike. That's what people do in recession. They just pause. And I remembered how many times I'd sit in a board meeting and say to me, how much money do you think you spend in men's sports? And they would throw out some number. I said, how much do you spend in women's sports? And they were just very comfortable to say to you, we don't spend in women's sports. And I used to think to myself, that should be uncomfortable. What's really cool at least in the States today is people are questioning that amongst themselves. Like, I didn't have to be the questioner. So I hear people saying, we've got a lot invested in the NCAA basketballs for men, and now we're going to do women. Or we spend a lot of money on men's tennis, and now we're going to do women's. I think this concept of making sure we're doing right, not just for men but for women, has really become a thing. And I'm excited for my friends and family back at the LPGA, because it must be a fun time to be working there.
It's going to be a spectacular venue for it. We can't wait to see it.
Yeah, Mike, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you for jumping on with us. And first of all, play well today. And can't wait to see what you guys put on in 3 weeks here at Erin Hills for the 80th playing of the U.S. Women's Open.
Thanks for covering us. If you don't have tickets, please get them. Come out here and watch the best in the world.
80th U.S. Women's Open happening right here at Erin Hills. Media Day today. Excited to talk with a former champion, the 2008 Women's Amateur Public Links champion, Tiffany Joe, joining us. You won that right here. Your second of those championships, and you happened to win it here. Welcome back to Wisconsin.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, we're really excited. So how long has it been since you've been on property here at Erin Hills?
So it's been 19 years since I won, but I did when the U.S. Women's Open was at Black Wolf Run.
Yeah.
What year was that?
2012.
2012.
So 2012. That was the last time I came here, and I did a little stop by on my way up, because we had an event the very next week at Green Bay. And so on my drive up, I was like, I'm going to cruise over and check it out. So, yeah, because I'd heard that they'd done a bunch of changes since I'd been here. So that's the last time I stepped foot on property.
When you walk out here, you look at this golf course, what floods your mind?
Well, I do remember, the fescue. I think, thank goodness it was match play, because I spent a lot of time in the fescue.
There's a great picture downstairs here at the clubhouse of you holding your championship trophy. Like, the fescue's coming up to your waist. Like, you can't see the lower half of your body.
It really does look like the first 10 seconds of, a Claritin commercial. But, yeah, I remember that, and I think more than anything, that's what I remember.
What did you have a favorite hole out here? Like a favorite stretch of holes? Because, like you said, it's match play. And what did you like most about the golf course?
I think what I like about it, I couldn't even pick out a favorite hole, but I think what I liked about it was that it looks like a links golf course, but it doesn't really play that much like one, because there's a lot of forced carries, and you can really end up putting yourself into a ping pong situation around the green. So typically if you go to Scotland and you play links golf course, you can run things up, you can kind of not hit great shots, but kind of run it up and end up okay. But you can't do that here. You got to be really good about your carry numbers. And I think that's what I really like about this golf course. The look of it is very linksy, but the actual playing of it isn't really very linksy.
So, Tiffany, I read an article from that day, 2008, recapping your win here at Erin Hills, and I figured your favorite hole was going to be the 15th hole, which is actually one of our favorite holes out here. Ooh. Because you were trailing in your 36-hole match until the 15th hole, the 33rd hole, because it was a 36-hole match play, is when you made birdie there.
Yeah.
Do you remember that moment?
I remember the putt, but I don't remember much else than that, to be honest. But, yeah, it was when our communications person at the USGA asked me to come out for this event. I obviously jumped at the chance, but I was like, I honestly don't remember a ton. It was such a long time ago, so I watched one of those previews on YouTube. No laying up, and I was like, I think I remember that tee shot, the one where you kind of hit over the tree on the hillside.
Yeah,
I remember that tee shot, but yeah, I was like, man, I have such a horrible golf memory as it is, and I was like, man, I wish I just paid more attention.
Well, you won. That's all that matters.
That is all that matters at the end of the day. Tiffany Joe was the 2008 Women's Public Amateur Links champion right here at Erin Hills. First championship that they ever hosted for the USGA. And, of course, another one coming up with the 80th playing of the U.S. Women's Open. When you look at this golf course and you're going to get out and play today, what are you looking forward to seeing the most? Because 17 years ago is when you won here. There have been a lot of changes here at this golf course. What are you most excited to see?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, like, it's a U.S. Open venue, which means it's going to be really tough. I'm hoping it doesn't play as tough for me today. Like, I mean, the biggest thing is, like, the windy conditions, right? When it gets super windy here. And, I mean, to be honest, I remember off the tee it being fairly generous, but also super penalizing, right? So, wind obviously makes a big factor into that. But, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to, like, any U.S. Open setup. It's almost like pleasurable suffering, like you know, like you're like I shouldn't.
That
like
sounds
this,
like every time I play
do.
golf. It's pleasurable suffering.
So I'm looking forward to kind of getting beat up out there, but also having a good time while I'm doing it.
I love the smile on your face. I'm looking forward to getting beat up out there.
Yeah.
You're a golf sicko like all
golfers
of us.
are all just little sickos.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm curious for your thoughts just on how this game has evolved since the time you played out here. It was a par 73 when you played here. It was 6,100 yards. It's now going to play to 6,800 as a par 72. Is it crazy to think about just the distance that this game has gained in that time?
Yeah, I mean, you look at players now, and they're all just freak athletes, right? So I think, so I retired from the LPGA in July of 2021, and one of my last competitive rounds was with Patty T, who also played at UCLA like I did, and she bombs it. And some of the lines that she was taking were just so different than mine that there was a part of me that was like, I need to retire yesterday. It's just such a different game. So, and I think that's exciting, right? Like, golfers are athletes, so I think it's awesome that that's the way that the game is trending. And I'm not gonna lie, Julia was telling me at the office, she was like, it would be such a great story if you tried to qualify, and I was like, man, I don't want to be that person where these 15-year-old junior golfers are like, why is she wasting our time? As I'm, going back to the car after 18 holes, getting like another 24 golf balls. So it was like, I don't need to do that. But it's exciting, and it's so exciting to watch, and I think it's really great for the game. So, yeah, all good things.
What about the growth as we talk with Tiffany Joe, who won the 2008 Women's Public Amateur Links out here at Erin Hills? What do you think about the growth of the women's game overall? Because I feel like it just continues to grow year after year. What do you think's behind that, the growth within the women's game and the interest in the women's game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting. I think, junior golf girls, like under the age of like 14, 15, it's like one of the fastest growing demographics, and that's awesome. And I think part of that is like really great role models. Part of that is just really good leadership. And I think part of that is just like more investment in women's sports in general, right? I think back to like the reason I picked up the game, and it was because I saw Sari Pak win the U.S. Open at Black Wolf Run. Like, I think I was 12 at the time. The very next week, I picked up a golf club because, I saw like an Asian athlete on TV, and it was so exciting for me. And so when I look at that, and I look at all the role models in the LPGA now and in women's athletics in general, like, I think that's a big part of that driving force, but it's super exciting, right?
It's a question I asked Mike Wan, and I want to ask you the same one. In 2017, when the men's U.S. Open was here, it was Brooks Koepka winning his first major. It springboarded his success. Is there a player that you look at in this field at the Women's Open that you feel like this could be their moment that could springboard an incredible career?
Yeah, well, I look at some of the really great American players, like Lauren Coughlin is killing it. So I spent the last couple years before I started working for the USGA coaching for the USC Women's Golf Program. And so Alison Corpuz, she won at Pebble Beach, and that was really exciting for us. So, I mean, I think Megan Kang is due for like a really big win. So, like all these really great names in the game right now. But yeah, it's really exciting. And the other funny thing is I remember when, Brooks Koepka won and there was all this criticism, and now he used that to springboard all these other majors, and it's like,
He's
yeah,
pretty
Erin
good.
Hills, pretty good venue, right?
Yeah. Exactly. We feel the same way.
Yeah, we are big fans of it. And Tiffany, thank you so much for jumping on with us, talking a little bit of women's golf. I can't wait to hear what you think of the golf course after playing it after a handful of years.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
And we're always excited to be here at Erin Hills. Have had an opportunity to talk with some pretty spectacular guests. And, of course, On the Tee, brought to you by our friends at Erin Hills. 80th playing of the U.S. Women's Open. It's going to be out here, so make sure you get those tickets. But also afterwards, book your tee time. Maybe do a little stay and play. That's still on my list. Maybe talk to a couple people here. See how I can make that happen at some point this year. Stay overnight, because I think we're going to be visiting back here again at least one other time this year. ErinHills.com is the website.
Just once?
I'll
be here as long as they let me. Is there a rule?
I don't know.
I'll sleep in the parking lot.
Yeah,
There's some beautiful tents up right now. Maybe they'll keep a hospitality tent for us, and we can just camp out for the year.
That's what I'm curious to see as we go around the course today, is what the hospitality kind of looks like, and see what I can try to remember from 8 years ago at the Men's Open and kind of compare and contrast.
It's always unique when you get to play a course and then you see what it looks like with a stadium feel.
Yeah.
Like 9 is going to be really cool when you're hitting down on a par 3.
Yeah.
And they had that whole stadium feel right behind the 9th green. Yeah, it's going to be pretty spectacular to see this place show out again for a major championship.
Yeah, and I think it's going to play perfectly for the women. I think it's going to be a great venue for and hopefully the wind blows a little bit, which we did not get in 2017 to make this golf course show its teeth just a little bit more back when Brooks Koepka stamped his and picked up his first major of his remarkable career. But we do have to, talk a little bit about some of the things going on in the world of professional golf, like Scottie Scheffler putting up video game numbers, sticking it to Phil Mickelson, who just like a month ago said he wasn't going to win before the Ryder Cup. So all Scottie does is he just goes out and almost sets the scoring record on the PGA Tour, bogeyed and toughed a chip on 17 in making a bogey en route to a 31 under par score at the Byron Nelson.
I mean, Scottie winning this year was inevitable. Everybody wants to talk about how he hadn't won to this point, but the guy has not finished outside the top 25 the entire PGA Tour season.
With his B game.
With it, yeah. I mean, Scottie might now be a favorite at Quail Hollow. The way that he's trending, you think about what Rory, because Scottie's going to be taking this week off for the Truist. Mm-hmm. So he's in great form heading in to Quail Hollow. Probably should have won the PGA Championship last year at Valhalla if, of course, he didn't get arrested. And he has to feel as good as he has this season, coming off of a 253, which is tied for the lowest 72-hole aggregate score in Tour history. What
makes him interesting to me for Quail Hollow, because for whatever reason, Scottie Scheffler has struggled at places that he's playing for the first time. And not necessarily like struggled for Scottie Scheffler, right? Like still finishing, in the upper, but he hasn't won. He's never won at a place he's playing for the first time, which obviously happens a lot with majors. You're going to different venues. You haven't played them, and unless you have a lengthy career, maybe you catch Pebble Beach on, the second time around, or obviously you go over, to for the Open Championship, and maybe you catch a Carnoustie or the Old Course or Portrush like this year. But they're playing at Quail Hollow for the PGA, and that's why I think it's interesting for him. Because if that trend were to continue, it doesn't matter. He's played Quail Hollow plenty of times before because they're there every single year on the PGA Tour.
And just played on a President's Cup team that won out there as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a good course fit for him. I mean, he hits it long enough. What isn't a good course fit?
Yeah, I was about to say, when you hit it like Scottie Scheffler hits every place is as good fit for Scottie Scheffler.
Can I give you the most outrageous stat that maybe I've seen on the tour this year from Scottie Scheffler's performance at Craig Ranch over the weekend? He gained 18.21 strokes on the field this week with his ball striking. That's off the tee and approach. 18 strokes on the field. It's the most in a measured 72-hole PGA Tour event for any player since 2007.
It's outrageous. Because, he goes
You
31.
gain like 2 strokes on the field? That's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
18.
Yeah, if you gain 2 strokes on the field, you feel pretty good about your chances of winning.
Yeah.
Like, you've got a decent chance of winning that week unless somebody goes crazy. What he does is unbelievable. And then, look, the golf course, if you want to have the conversation of whether or not it should be holding a PGA Tour event when the cut line is 4 or 5 under, okay, I've got some questions. But can you imagine being Jordan Spieth, who shot 19 under par, Eric Van Rooyen, shot 23 under par? You got dusted. Like, not even close. Like,
Yeah.
you shot 19 and 23 under par over 4 days. Not even close to winning.
It wasn't a fair fight. And you know what was cool about it, too, for Scotty, is in his interview after with Amanda Balionis at CBS, he was in tears. Like,
Yeah.
It still meant something to him. I mean,
It's his hometown event.
yeah, he made his PGA Tour debut there.
I saw they had a picture, I think it was back in 2003, of a young Scotty Scheffler in attendance in a picture with Byron Nelson.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see that.
Yeah.
That was so. Again, that's kind of cool. And yes, this isn't a marquee PGA Tour event. It's not. But to have the best player, or one of the best players in the world, because the best player I think
Yeah.
is up for debate right now. But for one of the best players in the world to have that emotional response because he won his hometown event, I think is still really cool. So you can downplay it all you want. Scotty Scheffler wasn't downplaying it, and to win his hometown event, he was incredibly excited to be able to pull that off.
I just want to list off some names of some winners that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Scotty Scheffler.
Yep.
Last year at the Zurich, it was Ben Griffin and Andrew Novak winning their first. Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Minwoo Lee, Victor Hovland, Rory McIlroy, Russell Henley, Ludwig Oberg.
I mean, those are all, and again, I always my brain comes back to here because it is Ryder Cup year. But those are all names that you're probably going to be seeing. I mean, outside of Ben Griffin, but like Novak, we talked about it last week. He's top 10 right now.
Yeah.
In the Ryder Cup standings. Like, I mean, those are outside of that pairing, and Novak could still get in. Those are all Ryder Cuppers. Like, those are all top players in the world, just picking off win after win after win. I know Minwoo's not eligible, but he is a President's Cup guy, still an incredibly talented player, especially to win the way that he did. These are all really good names.
Do you see who won the Live event this week?
Bryson won.
Yeah, okay. I was just testing you because I had to find out on social media that Bryson won an event on Live.
I just saw the headline.
Yeah.
I saw that they were in Korea, I believe.
Sounds right.
Yeah, they were somewhere like
My
that.
point is, you have to go searching to find out who wins on that tour.
Yeah.
Whereas the PGA Tour, stars are showing off, and this was a home game for Scotty. If there was one that he was probably going to win outside of Houston, it was this one. And good on him to pick it off. And, man, it's setting the stage for a fun signature event next week in Philadelphia. And really, the storylines going into this PGA Championship are incredible.
Well, we'll get to that in just a moment, in the PGA Championship. But with the Truist coming up, which, by the way, check out our boy, Stephen Watson, going to be part of the coverage on PGA Tour Live.
Yeah, I'll be on featured groups this week
Ooh.
with four-time PGA Tour winner Daniel Chopra.
Okay.
Yeah, calling the action.
Like, featured groups and a signature event.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty big spot for our boy.
I would guess because Scotty is not playing, Rory would go to marquee group, and then I would probably get the biggest names from there. But it's only a 72-person field, so I'll be calling some good golfers this upcoming weekend. And it's fun for me because I grew up 10 minutes from this golf course.
Yeah, so more on that in just a little bit. But one of the guys who's now in this field is Erik van Rooyen.
Yeah.
Because he played so well at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson this last week. But he's kind of upset that he's in this field now because he feels like he should have been in the field regardless. So Erik van Rooyen had some interesting comments after he won because, well, he thinks he should already be there.
Yeah.
He was asked, hey, second place finish gets you, this top five. It gets you into, the signature event. How do you feel about that? And he said, well, honestly, it still kind of makes me mad. Like that we're going in this direction, smaller fields, because, the depth of talent is still so great on the PGA Tour. He feels like some guys are getting cut off and not able to access those championships.
Well, my simple answer to Erik, who is, one of the most likable guys on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
And respected as well. Play better. That's my response. Here's the thing. This sport needs its stars to shine, and we've seen that on the PGA Tour season so far this year. He brought up the example of Wyndham Clark, a guy who was probably in that 100 to 125 range before he won the U.S. Open and, of course, then wins at Wells Fargo at Quail Hollow right after that. Or right before that, excuse me. And jumps into the top 75 and now is a guy who's going to find himself playing in every signature event for this upcoming season. As a golf fan, I want to see the best players in the world play. I don't need to see 150 guys play every single week because I think we need to emphasize more the top 20% in this game. And if you want to get there, go out there and win an event, and then you find yourself playing in a signature event. That's how this thing works. It's not every single event is 75 players. It's just 8 of them for this upcoming year, and I think we have to find a way to make events more marketable and get more eyes on them, because as you and I have agreed on this program, there's too many events.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to make some shine and not just feel like everything is the same.
Yeah, I understand where he's coming from, and I understand the frustration, because the goalposts are moving for him, a player, right?
Yeah.
Like, it used to be something, and now they're kind of shrinking, and it's easier with the way that things are set up. If you're one of these players that is in the signature events, it's kind of hard to get kicked out of them because they're free, right? There's no cut. You're getting free points. You're getting free money, and it's easier to maintain your card once you get in there. Now, granted, there is some turnover, but it's tough to get in. But once you get in, it's tough to get kicked out. I would like to see them expand to 100, because I feel like 100, and like, it's okay to have a cut. We can cut that down to 50 or however you ever want, and cut that off, because honestly, like, especially after the last signature event where you see some guys who are like 7-8 over par, like Max Homa, the way he's struggling right now. You think Max really wanted to go out there and continue to play DFL golf on Saturday and Sunday? Probably not. He probably wants to go home, go to the range, work on things, get ready for the next one. But instead, he's kind of forced to play these last couple events because it's a no-cut event. I would like to see the cut come back. I think the cut is still important, especially because one of the things we always talk about with Tiger is, man, how impressive is his no-cut streak? And now you play in a no-cut event and, cut made. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But I still want some stakes in some of those things. But again, those are minor tweaks.
Would you be fine with going from 75 to, say, 40 from a cut line? You just think there should be a cut line?
Yeah, I think there should be a cut line. If they're not,
I'll agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think cut line is important.
Yes.
This is not live.
No.
You should not be rewarded.
Correct.
For not making a weekend on an event. This just essentially shrinks the field to make your chances better.
Yeah.
To get there.
And again, if you're not going to go and push the field from 72 to 100 for some of these signature events, okay, fine, I get it. But at least can we get a cut line?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I will 100% agree that there has to be some sort of stakes, because free money, like, it doesn't mean anything to these guys.
No.
They want to go out there and win, and I think it holds them accountable. And maybe it's a situation where if you don't make a certain number of cuts, it puts you at risk of not automatically qualifying. I don't know. It's something that they could figure that out to maybe get some different names in there. But I don't mind the small field. I don't
mind the small field either. I think it could be a little bit bigger. But again, the cut thing, because how many times have you heard a PGA Tour player? Like, I think Justin Thomas was kind of talking about this before he picked off his win when they were down at the Valspar. And, the pressure of trying to win. But at the same time, he's like, man, I've heard JT talk about the pressure of making a cut.
Yeah.
And how that's greater, because when you're at the top of the field, typically you're playing pretty well. And you're pretty confident about everything that's going on. But if you're grinding to make a cut, maybe you're working on some different things aren't going great, it just kind of shows how much you can kind of grind, and maybe you find something in that grind, making the cut that elevates you. I like that aspect still to be out there on the tour.
One thing I have to give the tour credit for, I do think that the Aon Next 10 and the Swing 5 have been good additions, because it kind of allows guys who are trending to get into the field. I'm curious for your opinion on this. The names who got the sponsors exemption this week at Philly Cricket: Spieth, Fowler, Woodland. They're kind of falling back into their own trap when you're giving sponsors exemptions to guys who are names instead of how they're actually trending. Now, Jordan played
earned his way on with how he played at
Gary Woodland had
Cup.
a great Houston Open, but outside of that, he's been kind of all over the place this year. Ricky,
the last 2 years has just disappeared. After the resurgence he had a couple of years ago.
They're kind of falling back into their own trap.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue as well. But I get it, because those are marketable guys, especially somebody like Jordan.
There's still going to be people wearing orange to see Ricky.
Yeah.
Gary's the best story on the PGA Tour over the last couple of years, and Jordan Spieth is Jordan Spieth.
I have zero issue with any – it's the sponsors are paying this much money. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's just part of doing business. Like, they want marketable guys there. I get it.
That's what I keep coming back to, though, is like, I would rather watch those guys play.
Yeah.
And, like, I love what Ben Griffin's story has been this year, or Michael Kim's story has been this year. But I still, like, if I'm watching golf and the TV goes to Spieth, I'm watching.
Yeah.
even Ricky at this point, just because I think he's fun to watch.
Only if Ricky is in contention. Like, if Ricky's in contention, it becomes kind of like he was, because he won at Detroit a couple of years ago, but when he was at the U.S. Open, because he had fallen off so far, it's a nice comeback story if he finds himself in that front page of the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Tell us what you can about Philly Cricket Club, because this is a course that you grew up really close to.
Yeah, 10 minutes from. I've played a couple of times.
Yeah, not that you were, growing up playing the course.
No.
It's
man, what a gem. I'm really excited for Philly Cricket to get an opportunity to shine. They've hosted a couple of USGA events over the years, some mid-ams and stuff like that. It's they've stretched it out to about 7,100 yards, which is considered kind of short on the PGA Tour. There's not much more room they can build this course out to be. The bunkering on this golf course is art. I mean, the thing I kind of think about is Shinnecock. When you look at the visuals of Shinnecock, kind of that wispy grass over a bunker with great bunkering complexes, it's going to be really fast greens. It's going to reward a really good short game. And
this is a temporary course, and it sounds so much better than whatever they just played.
No, Philadelphia golf. If you're unfamiliar with Philly golf, it is probably the hidden gem of cities in the country, because everybody thinks of Pine Valley, which is in South Jersey, when you talk about that area.
Yeah.
Philadelphia has some incredible golf courses. I think Philly Cricket, I mean, granted, I'm a Philly guy. Philly fans are going to show out for this. It's going to be a really cool opportunity for them. Hopefully they don't get too rowdy. But
if it happens, it happens.
It's just a great old school track. You'll see what I mean when you see it on TV. You're like, oh, like the bunkering and the way that the hills roll. It's just great architecture. Really hard greens, incredible bunkering. It's going to be a plotter's paradise with good.
Ooh, Brian Harmon?
Maybe. It's going to be interesting to see a guy like Rory play this course, because he's a bomber, and he's going to take lines that I've never thought about playing this golf course.
Sure.
But I want to see how good his wedge game is, because I think that's the part of that. That's where he's raised his floor, is with his inside 100 yards. So how can he do it on a golf course like this? This is a brand new ballpark for everyone.
That's the exciting part.
That's the really cool thing about this event is it's not Quail Hollow this year because the PGA is. So, there's no course history. It's going to be who's playing the best that week, and I think it's a big Colin Morikawa week. Feels like I want to see what this guy has.
Oh, the new caddy, Joe Griner on the bag.
Because it fits really well for him. He's been knocking on the door. He missed the cut at the Zurich. That was mainly because of his partner Kitayama. But I really want to see something out of Colin this week, because it does feel like a great fit for him.
More on Erin Hills, where we are live. It's U.S. Open, Women's U.S. Open Media Day. We wrap things up next on the tee. Just anytime we're out here, Stephen, at Erin Hills, and I know we're doing a lot of this on Monday, playing it back on Tuesday, if you're listening to us here live on the tee. Just a smile on our face, but to hear people like Tiffany Joe, to hear people like Mike Wan glow about a place that we hold so near and dear to our heart, like, it just always brings me excitement. And I was already pumped for the U.S. Women's Open coming up. I'm even more excited. 24 days, they've got the counter. 23 days now until the U.S. Women's Open here at Erin.
Yeah, I can't appreciate Mike Wan enough for taking the time to talk to us and hearing the energy in his voice. I know I joked with him about letting the secret out on Wisconsin golf, but the secret's been well out for a couple of years now.
You got to blame yourself for that one too, putting together a video of the top 10 courses.
No, but it's really special when you sit back and reflect on this is the first of 13 USGA championships in the next 15 years, and we were worried about that for a long time. Is when was major championship golf going to come back to Wisconsin after this Women's Open at the end of the month? And the more we put ourselves out there and allow the spotlight to shine on this great state, the more opportunities we're going to get. And I can't encourage fans of the game, and not even, take your daughter out here. Just come out here and get some inspiration and see some of the best in their craft on an unbelievable golf course. And you might not even be a fan of golf. If you're listening to this show, I bet you are a fan of golf. But come out and enjoy the walk on this beautiful property and take in the sunshine, take in the energy. It's a really special opportunity to witness something that is so rare in this game. And that's a major championship. And I'm so excited to watch the best in the world tee it up here.
There is still time as well. If you text golf, GOLF, to 800-990-3776. Made the joke earlier in the show about Steven. Not going to be out there on Thursday playing the 100 holes. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you've watched Jen, Gabe, and Chewy on YouTube the last couple of days, well, yeah, I'm clean shaven because of some of the money we
I'm
raised.
kind of team babyface Neitzel.
Yeah, you are. So honestly, like I've been surprised by the amount of people who have said they've liked it. Like you enjoyed it. Jen couldn't even look at me when she first saw it. Couldn't make eye contact with me. Chewy was a fan.
Did you
though.
make her uncomfortable or what?
No, she just so many people, Steven, like I've had a beard for 10 years.
I know. I shook your hand when I saw you this morning because I had to reintroduce myself. But no, it's good to see the face.
You're one of the few people who actually knew me before I had a beard.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, that was a long
I've
time
always
ago.
just had beard envy with you. You know, I can't really grow it out. So I felt like you were doing it for both of us.
Yeah, but again, you can support the MAC Fund as we did by shaving off the beard, thanks to our guys at KBN, and they got the buzz cuts and the whole 9 yards.
And as somebody who got to witness that firsthand, that was really special of those guys and you, honestly, to put yourself out there, to be willing to, you know, shaving a beard is minor. You know, maybe shaving your head or some of the crazy things those 3 or 4 are doing.
Yeah, again,
in
Josh
addition.
DiMaggio a couple of years ago got a couple
Yeah,
tattoos.
but I mean, if it leads to more support, that's what it's all about. We're all fighting for the same cause, and that's to raise money for the MAC Fund. And because of Mother Nature, this is delayed 1 more week, and that gives all of our listeners 1 more week an opportunity to donate for an incredible cause. I know you and Greg Matzik are going to go out there and play 100 holes. I unfortunately won't be able to attend now, but I'll be there in spirit, be thinking of you guys, and it doesn't change what this is actually all about, which is raising the money.
All right, Steven, quickly on our way out because we're about to go play our favorite course in the state of Wisconsin. 1 call, that's all, brought to you by Gruber Law Offices. Who has more birdies today, you or me?
I'm going to go you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man. Like this
No,
is...
I haven't golfed that much this year. I feel like
Okay.
you're a little more dialed in.
All right.
I trust your game a lot more than I trust mine right now.
I don't know
And
if you should.
like I'm going to say the Y word on this program, and I don't like to do it, but I still have chipping yips. And this is not the golf course to not be
No.
dialed in with your short game. So your boy might be taking out the Texas wedge a lot in the state of Wisconsin today.
It works out here, though, at Erin Hills. Thank you to everybody from the USGA. Thank you to everybody, including our guy Steve Peace, with Erin Hills. We'll be back next week, special 2-hour edition at